Hello, everybody. I guess we're ready to get started. We're here to talk about story today. We're going to tell you a story, but it's not exactly what you expect. We're not going to talk about storytelling in games specifically, but we're going to talk about how we together can tell our stories with unity. And it all begins with a story. Everybody here, whatever you're doing, however you're working, it began with a story that you told yourself, a story that you were burning to tell, something that you wanted to shape, create, share, and give. And that's our story as well. And this is our story. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm Ragnar Tornquist. I have worked for a company called Funcom for many, many years. Last year, together with Martin and a bunch of other guys, we started a company called Red Thread Games. Martin?
Hi. Is my mic on? Yeah.
Is my mic on?
Yeah, I'm Martin Bruusgaard. Actually, there's a lot of Nordic people here. I can say my name properly. Martin Bruusgaard.
Ragnar Tornquist.
Yeah, finally. Worked on Age of Conan. And worked with Ragnar on The Secret World, where I was the lead designer.
So these are some of the games that we've worked on, and I guess some of the games that have shaped us as well. Martin, you were an Anarchy Online player before you joined Funcom.
I love that game. That's how I got into MMOs.
And these are some of the games we made being part of a large studio. I mean, we come from big game development. The last game we worked on, The Secret World, had 200 people working on it. And now we've gone back to our roots to independent game development, and that's what we're going to talk about today. You like this picture, don't you?
I do.
Go back.
we seem so crafty.
So we talked about telling a story and creating a story. This, go back one.
Oh, this is going well.
We haven't really trained him well. This is our story, right here. This is what we've been building towards. This is what we've been working towards. IKEA furniture. To build our own studio, to create our own stories, to do something on our own. And that thing is Dreamfall Chapters. Dreamfall Chapters, thank you.
I don't know if they're clapping because of Dreamfall Chapters or because we got the sliding right now.
So the next time I'll give you a sign and then you can click. The remote didn't work, so we're resorting to Martin.
Yeah.
Dreamfall Chapters is a sequel to Dreamfall, a game that came out in 2006 for PC and Xbox. It tells the story of Zoe Castillo, the dreamer. And for 7 years now, we've been wanting to continue this story, continue this game, and people have been asking us to, and that's why we created Red Thread Games. So it's humbling for us to stand here and talk about our story and to talk about Unity, because there's so many skilled Unity developers here, and we're really fresh. I barely know how to open it, and Martin is, he's creating gameplay in it, but it's also a new experience for you.
It's a very new experience, but I love it. I've been working with quite a different tool set before. Only worked in Unity for a couple of months now, and really easy to get into, and I'm loving it.
So we're not going to be standing here and teaching you, the tricks of the trade, how to use Unity. That's not our story in a way. We're going to talk a little bit about how Unity is helping us realize our dreams of telling our story. That's what we're going to be talking about. So, once upon a time, in the days of a couple of years ago, it was really hard for us to create a game like Dreamfall Chapters. Dreamfall was a pretty large game. It had a pretty big team for a smaller studio. It had about 30 people working on it. It's a game that costs quite a bit to make, and we needed a publisher. We needed somebody to fund it. We needed an entity behind it. There was no way for us to do this on our own. The opportunities weren't there. A game the size of Dreamfall and Dreamfall Chapters needed to have broad appeal to make sense to a publisher. So either you scaled up to something that would appeal to hopefully more people, to make a bigger game, or you compromised the content of the game for that, or you scaled down and made something else. There wasn't really room for the kind of game we wanted to make just a few years ago. But things are changing now, and Unity is obviously a big part of that. We're rebooting game development, and I don't mean me and Martin. We're not capable of rebooting the entire game development process, but all you guys are part of that, rebooting game development. And that's really what we're doing. We're changing the way things work. I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and this is the most exciting time in this industry. This is the time to be able to create something brand new, to tell a new story. We're no longer tied to how things were. We can build something from the ground up. Like I said, there's room for new stories. For us to tell those stories, for you guys to tell those stories. And yeah, it all begins with a story. And every story begins with an idea. Now, I mean, I can pick every single one of you guys out there, and you're going to have an idea that probably would make a great game. I can assure you that everybody here has an idea. You probably have several. You probably have hundreds of ideas. Some of you guys are able to realize those ideas, and you might be working on them right now. But I'm sure you have more ideas that are still waiting to become reality. And that's the thing with ideas. They're easy. A good idea is still hard. It takes experience and it takes hard work. But an idea is cheap in that you can have the idea, and as long as it's in your head, it's not something physical. It's not something tangible. And to make an idea reality takes a lot. So this is our idea. We want to create games with soul. That's what we created Red Thread Games to do. We want to create games that feel handmade, handcrafted, games that are personal, intimate, games that tell stories, games that have characters that you can believe in, games that have gameplay that feels meaningful, substantial, valuable. That's our mission statement in a way. That's our idea. That's what we created Red Thread Games to do. That's what we sort of been working towards in games the whole time, to create something that feels not the result of a factory, but something that feels more something you make in your garage, something that feels, real and meaningful to us as game developers. And now we're writing our story to be able to do that. So what we're doing is we're making Dreamfall Chapters, and our goal is to continue the journey that began in The Longest Journey and in Dreamfall, the two previous games in this saga. We want to make a game where players care about the characters and the worlds they inhabit. And we want to give players ownership and investment in the story. So let's talk a little bit about our game. So Dreamfall Chapters. Is it a loose cable?
Flickery.
It really does. I don't think it's the mic. All right.
This is weird.
Sorry about this.
That's as far as my skills go.
Are we sure there's nothing wrong behind the scenes? Is there anybody here who's capable of this?
It's okay if we jump one forward, it seems.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to it. So Dreamfall Chapters is all about a gripping story. It's about telling a gripping story in the game. It's about an immersive world. It's about making real choices with real consequences in the game. All these things are really, really important to us. I mean, obviously, the Longest Journey and the Dreamfall were games about the journey. They're about the story, about these characters that inhabit that world. They're about these two worlds, Stark and Arcadia, that exist in parallel, inhabited with what we hope are interesting and intriguing characters that feel real to the players. And lastly, we want to make a game where there are choices. and those choices have consequences. And we're not talking about moral choices between choosing the good path and the evil path, or about black and white, right or wrong. We're talking about human choices. We're talking about choices that are difficult to understand when you're making them. Choices that might both have terrible outcomes, and you have to pick the better of two evils, so what you consider to be the better of two evils.
Yeah, life is seldom black and white. It's always playing not always, but very often playing in the gray area, and playing on that, and showing the player that it's not easy to see what's the right choice always.
So, in Dreamfall Chapters, we're going to tell a story that becomes your story, or the player's story. A story that is shaped through the choices you make in a game. I mean, we're not talking about a story that branches into 100 different endings. We're talking about a story that is shaped in smaller ways as you play it. The fates of characters, the paths you take in your life through the game. And all these choices have consequences that mean something.
And even if the story is told to them, we want to do it in a way that makes them experience it as their own story. As long as you make the choices have consequences, and real consequences that feels real, it becomes the player's story.
And we want players to be able to share those stories, and to talk to other people about that story. We want playing a single-player game to be a social experience. To be an experience that, when you make a choice, when you make one of these choices, you can share that choice with the world. I can share it with Martin. I can ask him, why did you make that choice? I made a completely different choice. And that functionality of sharing a story and making these choices is built into the game. And that's really important to us. It is about making the story into your story.
And also creating those user stories, those water cooler moments where you talk about what choice did you make there, and that creates a good vibe around the game.
Yep. A game with soul, and that soul is something maybe intangible, but it's something that makes the game feel grounded, makes it feel real, it makes it feel like it has meaning to you as a player. So for us, it begins and ends with a story, both in terms of how we develop games and what our games is all about. So this is our idea. This is what we're working towards. So the tool set we need to create this story, to tell this story. What we need, or what we needed on the team, was experience, resources, passion, focus, and technology. All these things are tied together, and we couldn't do without any of them. These are all vitally important. To make a game like this, with a small team, with a limited time frame, with a small budget, we needed experience on the team. We needed people who could make the right choices in game development, and who could get it right. We needed resources, obviously. Passion. That's something every game needs, especially if you're going to make a game that, again, feels personal and intimate, and a game that has soul. Focus is extremely important. And then, of course, lastly, tech. The technology we use and choose for this game would define the game completely. So what we started with was an experienced team that was deeply passionate about working on Dreamfall. A team that had, for the most part, worked on the previous games in the saga, and that came together sort of, I hesitate to say it, but sort of one last big tour, to really sort of get it right this time, to play all the old hits, but to do it in a new way. We needed resources to transform ideas into reality. Passion comes through ownership of the vision, the execution, delivery, and quality. The fact that this time we're able to do it on our own. We're able to take ownership of every aspect of development and every aspect of telling the story. Focus is something extremely important to us and to making a game like this. to focus on the right features, the right audience, the right development model, to always keep that in mind. And that's probably the hardest part there, and then where we have failed in the past of keeping focus, and that's one of the hardest things to do. And in a way, the more money and the more people you have, the harder focus is to manage. And focus here is really about discipline. I remember when we started out with Dreamfall Chapters. Yeah, we talked about all the things we wanted to do.
Yeah, and we had lots of cool plans. Wanted to do lots of different things with cool game mechanics and different types of mechanics that we wanted to introduce. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this and this and this? And we started talking about it and sort of boiling it down, and it came down to who are our users. And we didn't think that this type of game needed to be very mechanics driven. It was more about the characters you meet in the game, the immersion in the game, the locations, and the story being told. So we basically boiled it down to what we think the game should be. And I guess that comes from experience, because this is something that we've done wrongly before. We're not trying to hide that. We worked on Anarchy Online and The Secret World. Very proud of those games, but we learned a lot of things from them that we of course need to bring into this game and try to do it better every time.
Yeah, and for us that is all these tied together, but they're all tied to focus, passion, experience, and these are all vitally important. But of course, without the right technology, the technology allows us to focus on content that empowers the developers and encourages experimentation and iteration. All this would come to nothing. All of these things that we had and that we're working towards, what we needed was the engine, the tool set, the technology to make this reality, to transform this idea into a story, to tell our story. And this was our most important choice, technology. It would be a choice that really defined what the game was and what the game is going to be. And it defines our future as a studio. Because for us, we know what it's like to work with engines that maybe are wrong for the project. With Dreamfall, we struggled a lot with that, the original Dreamfall, with an engine that wasn't really right for the game, an engine that was very new, an engine that didn't have a lot of support. With The Secret World, we struggled with an engine that was fantastic, but we tried to use it in the wrong way. We tried to design a game that didn't really fit the engine. Again, like Martin said, these are games we're extremely proud of, but there are things we learned through the development here. And to us, the engine is so fundamental. The technology is so fundamental to really giving that idea life, to telling that story, because without it, all you're left with is a bunch of ideas. So let's take a step back to last year, late last year. We received funding, Red Thread Games, to create a prototype of Dreamfall Chapters by the Norwegian Film Institute. We also put our own time, of course, and resource and money into it. And we decided that we wanted to fund Dreamfall Chapters by going on Kickstarter. I'm sure you all know what Kickstarter is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining it, but it's become a very, very important tool in this, I guess, game development revolution. So before we went on the Kickstarter, we looked at everything. We discussed all the different possibilities, again, knowing what the right tools can do and definitely what damage the wrong tools can do. And of course, we wouldn't be here otherwise. It's not like it's a big moment of revelation. Oh my God, we picked Unity. And there are lots of reasons for that. But I guess the best way to show you why is to show you the prototype that the team built during the Kickstarter. And using Unity, we were able to create this in just a couple of weeks. Everything here. From the character to all the assets you see on the screen, all of this built in less than 1 month. And of course, experience, passion, all that stuff has, it's really important to be able to do something like this in order to sort of get a proof of concept. But of course, the technology and tools enables us to really, really create something that we feel is a manifestation of our idea. It is our story. So this is what we created in order to really show what we're intending to do with this game in terms of visual quality, in terms of UI, in terms of how the game feels. But obviously everything here is both very outdated now. This is a prototype that's going on 3 months, and it's all placeholders in terms of, there's no final art here. But this game is a 3D adventure. You explore these game spaces that Martin talked about. You interact with characters and objects in the world. You talk to characters. We actually have one of the characters here. We can go and talk to it, one of these sentient robots. And to be able to experiment and iterate this quickly is something that made us realize that we have chosen the right technology. This is the engine that can allow us to make games the way we want and need to make games.
God damn it.
Great.
For social interactions,
Cancel.
I am merely a maintenance bot. I exist to maintain.
So,
That is not relevant.
When I clicked back to the window,
now you're just fucking with me.
I'd like to keep you on your toes.
I am not anything.
So let's go back and look at the trailer now that it's working, actually. So this is part of what we made during the Kickstarter, with the resources and the team we had, with this brand new engine to us. And we also put together a trailer. Oh, I'll load that up for you. To really sort of get the message across about what kind of game we're making. So let's hope that plays.
Dreamer, the sky god has been searching for you. Where have you gone to, Dreamer? Whose dreams are you dreaming? Two worlds, Stark and Arcadia. Stark is the world you know, the world of the mundane, of logic and order, a rational world bound by the physical laws of the universe. The other world lies across the divide. Arcadia is a world of magic, of mystery and chaos, a world in flux, unbound by laws. These twin worlds exist in parallel and in balance. There are those who can move freely between worlds. They are called shifters. There are few of them left now. And then there are those who can dream themselves into other worlds, existing in two places at once. They are the dreamers. There is only one known dreamer in the twin worlds. Her name is Zoe, and she is lost in the story time where every story begins, including this one. To dreamer. Whose story are you dreaming now? Dreamer, the next chapter in your life begins.
So what we were able to do here is everything you see in this trailer is stuff that we did. Thank you. So everything in this trailer is real-time in-game footage using Unity. Now, about a quarter of the assets in this were taken from Dreamfall. We're able to import them very quickly and to use them in this project. But 3/4 of it is brand new stuff that was, again, done within the time frame of the Kickstarter. This was, again, done in a couple of weeks. So that, obviously, we were able to work quickly, to iterate, to create and to manifest this idea we had, this story we had very, very quickly using these tools. So yeah, we showed you the prototype. That's the most important thing for us, how Unity empowers us. And it sounds like I'm preaching, and I am a little bit, because I worked in games for so many years at this point. And to be able to finally work with a technology and engine that allows us to make the game we've wanted to make, and to do it in a way that feels right, that empowers the designers, the developers, that allows us to design in-engine. I'll let Martin talk about that in a second. That gives us the power to tell this story. That's the way we always wanted to tell it. That, to me, is a revelation, and that's what's changed my mindset about game development and about the future of game development. But Martin, I guess you can, talk a little bit about the design process now that you started with before. So we begin with the story.
Yes. And as I mentioned, we briefly tapped into all of this, that it's important to create a world that's immersive, because this game focuses so much on immersion. You need to believe the story, and you need to be able to feel something. Games with soul, as we tapped into, it's incredibly important. So I also mentioned the stuff about game spaces, how we feel that is an incredibly important tool for us to allow the players to feel like it's their story. They are calling the shots. We are, of course, designing everything and make sure that the story comes together and everybody experiences these important things. But it's at their own pace and their own initiative. And we also talked about like how we build the storyline, how we have an overarching story where the writers have defined certain things that needs to happen. But in between there, it's all up to the designers to create gameplay. The players need to do something, and it should be fun, engaging, maybe sad. It should be something meaningful at least. So there was a talk earlier about prototyping, and we do that a lot as well. We feel it's incredibly important. And prototyping in Unity is amazing. It lends itself really, really well to prototyping. It's press play on tape, and you're there, you can play it, and everybody on the project can play it. So we do that a lot. And I've done different types of prototyping before, but the ones I absolutely prefer is the immersion. Going into the game world and putting on a hat, basically, and saying, like, what would this character do? I'm playing as this character now. I have these goals that I need to achieve. How do I do that? How would this person think or solve this problem? But for that to happen, you need to have a game world. I guess I went through this. You need to have a game world to actually go into. So what we do is we gray box a lot. The first thing we start out doing is creating the world through gray boxing. Basically, gray boxes, gray houses, not polishing anything, just getting the skeleton of the game world in place. And as soon as you have that, and you're able to go into the game, it's so much easier for me, at least, to put on that hat and say, okay, what would I do now? I'm in the world. How would I solve this? And it's a fantastic way of making sure that the gameplay flows, that the story flows, thinking out how you should place things, making sure that when the player steps around this corner, is he able to see the ship that he's going to, or is he not? And just getting those things right is incredibly simple in Unity. And when you have a tool that is so simple to edit, even I'm able to do that.
So it's game design from the inside out rather than from the outside in. Maybe you can show a little bit of what you what you're doing.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find this. I've never used the Mac, so bear with me here.
So again, it's the way we create it is the writers have them provided an outline of where we want to go with the story. But we don't put anything else down on paper in terms of what actually happens moment to moment in the game. We build the environments for that. We build the world from a designer's perspective. But then we go inside the game in order to really create the design for the game. And this is really, really empowering, and it really is, for us, the right way to do this. So this is an example of the gray box environment that Martin is talking about. This city is pretty sizable, and this is all going to be seamless. It looks small from up here, but it's actually pretty massive.
Yeah, so this is a city called Mercuria, and for those of you who played the previous games will probably remember this city. What's different about this is that in the previous games, this city was broken into, I think, 5 different locations because of restrictions of tech. So there were lots of
Probably
loading
more,
screens.
actually.
More?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the tower and Friar's Keep and yeah. But now we wanted to, or we're able to put everything into one scene, which is great. But that also means that there are a few new locations that the player actually haven't visited before that needed design. So I started out with actually pen and paper and drawing like what I wanted to see, and then I thought like, well, this is stupid. I can just go into Unity and create the scene and basically just using prefabs and building something. Not something that would be used in the actual game, but something I can use to explain to the graphic artist or to the level designer what I would like to see from it. So started placing things out. One of the things that I knew I wanted to take into consideration is I needed more points of interest and more sort of areas where I can place gameplay, because I think everybody here knows that things change all the time, and it's always good to have those extra locations where you can place out a character, because you don't want them to meet just a random guy in the street. They need to be rooted in something. They need to be like the guy at the cherry tree, or like the guy in the hot dog stand, or something like that. So I started creating all these tiny nooks and crannies around the city. So that's basically sort of catering for change. You know that change or some additions to the game will come. So that's what we did. And I sat down with the graphic artist and talked about like, this is what I would like to see from it. And then he brings his expertise in making everything work. And that sort of quick iteration is fantastic, and Unity lends itself so well to that. We think it turned out well. And just a couple of weeks later, we sat in a meeting and we were brainstorming some ideas for gameplay. And somebody goes, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if?" And you know that when you hear that sentence, that means like, okay, here's the feature creep, or something is changing. But that's okay. We can welcome that change, because we wanted to place out an extra group of people that were conspiring, so they needed somewhere to hide out. And then we can do that. It's easy. We have a couple of locations we can use already. So it's sort of just that quick iteration you can have with the other people on your team. Because it's easy to use and quick to use, and you see the change so quickly. Makes Unity perfect for that.
And it also allows us to have a very tight time frame, because I mean that is very crucial for us. So using this methodology, and we're aiming towards the graphical quality you saw on the prototype, obviously, but we're not spending time on that now. We know where our goals are. We know the quality we're looking for, and we know we can accomplish it. So right now, it's bare bones, and this is not usually what you see from games in development. You wouldn't see this from a big publisher showing you everything under the skin. But to us, this is beautiful, because this is what pure game design is all about. We can knock something out super quick that we can then play around with, and we can fiddle with, and we can change for a long time. And our plan is to have the whole game playable through from beginning to end. With all the major beats, all the most important sequences in a gray box format in 8 months. And that's something that's wasn't just a far-fetched goal. It's something that's turning out it's very, very doable. Simply because everybody is able to change everything. And you can very quickly have something bare bones up and running. The team tests it, everybody sits down, talks about it, we make changes, we move forward. And this empowers us to really do what we wanted to do, to create this game. Now with the engine we had on Dreamfall back in 2006, this would have taken 3-4 times as long. Every step was agonizing. Every step of an iteration meant going back, making a new build, spending time on making sure that everything worked out correctly. Come back the next morning, play it. But now it's a press of a button, and you can play it. And it changes everything for us. It really empowers us.
Yep. I guess I should go back to the presentation.
So, all of these things come together for us to create what you saw, what we were able to do, the Kickstarter, the trailer, the prototype, having the resources, with the help of Kickstarter and the funding we get through that, having the experienced team, but most importantly, an experienced team with passion, a team that was burning to do this, having the focus that experience and passion gives us, having the focus of what limited resources does for us, having the focus what existing technology and tools does for us. And then lastly, and of course most importantly, tools and technology to tie all of these things together. I mean, they are inseparable. And all of these things are necessary. We're putting focus on focus. We're putting focus on everything here in order to make this happen. And it's really all about giving power back to us and to you guys. Because in a lot of ways, especially if you worked for big publishers, game development has been a lot about being powerless to make changes, powerless to tell the story you want to tell. You're part of a bigger process, being able to narrow it down, to focus, to give the developers the tools they need in order to empower Martin to be able to sit and place out houses and show the artists what his vision for the design is. That's what it's all about.
And that really dawned on me when we were at GDC. We're going to do some presentations, and we were struggling with making the prototype work. And I was talking to a guy, and he's sitting here in the audience. He came over and said, "Hey, do you need some help?" And then I sort of like, "Oh shit, yeah, you work in Unity as well." And he was like, "Yeah, I can help you." And just that made me realize, okay, we are a large group of people. Everybody's in it for the greater good and for making good games. And that was really when it dawned on me what we're sort of a part of here. Everybody, we're part of this huge movement that's trying to make good games together.
And we're all doing it differently. Every story is unique and every story is different, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. But this, again, is how we've wanted to make games for a long, long, long time. And finally being able to do it is liberating and it's empowering. And like Martin said, it's about being part of something bigger, a movement, a shared culture, a community of game developers. And in a lot of ways, when you're part of a publisher, you have the safety, you have the technology, and you have the tools. But working in Unity is like being part of a massive publisher that doesn't impose any rules on you, but where you have the safety, you have the feedback, you have the community, you have the help you need in order to make it happen. So Unity is a lifetime investment for us. That sounds grandiose too, and of course if Unity starts sucking in 10 years, maybe we'll switch, but we don't think so. We think this is, for us, is the technology we want to develop, we want to use. We want it to pay off for us, for everyone else. We want to share our knowledge, our tools, our resources with everybody, and we want you guys to be able to do the same. It's really important to us. And that's why we made this commitment, why we're building this game, this dream, this passion, and telling this story with the use of this technology. So we want to share our story with you, and we hope that you guys will share your story with us as well in any way you can. And if you want to talk about that, we're going to be out by the bar, and you can talk to us, and
That's
we can.
usually where we are.
Yeah, it's usually where we are. So, thanks. And
Thank you.
sorry for the technical issues, but we got through it.